In the audience, Pastor. You lead us in our prayer, Pastor. We'll go from the prayer right into the pledge.
Let's pray together. God, we do thank you so much for today and just the blessings of life that you've given us. And God, thank you for bringing us here tonight. As we begin this meeting, God, I do remember those that lost their lives this weekend here in Northport, God, at Tuscaloosa Airport. I pray for the families, God, for the children that were affected this weekend. God, we need your strength through this situation, and that's why we call upon you. And so, God, just be in that moment for each and every person involved. And God, we do continue to lift up this council, God, and the mayor tonight. I pray that you give them wisdom and vision for the future of the city of Northport. And we ask all this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Swan, call the roll, please.
President Logan.
Here.
Councilwoman Hayes.
Here.
Councilman Sims.
Here.
Councilman Sullivan.
Here.
Councilman Harper.
Here.
We've got four, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mayor Herndon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Got several things I want to talk about. This coming Friday here at City Hall and the room right across the hall from 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we're going to have a blood drive. You know, on the news you hear it every day about what kind of life matters. If it's blue life or black life or whatever kind of life. All life matters. But one thing that we can do to support this is to give life, and that's through giving blood. And if anyone that can, if it could be here from 1 o'clock, I'm going to be the first one in line. Come back here. Anyway, Friday from 1 till 6 here, just right across there, giving blood. Also on Wednesday, I'm going to be leaving my land surveying office at 7 o'clock, and I've got already one almost full U-Haul truck, and looks like we have another U-Haul truck to take down to the flood victims in Louisiana. People have been bringing stuff out of my office all day. It's been a great turnout, and we're going to be taking donations of any kind. They really need things like toothbrushes, toothpaste, hygiene products, soap, shampoo, deodorant, anything, diapers, bottled water, toys. These folks' houses, I've been giving updates, you know, completely underwater, and everything is gone. And this particular town that I'm taking this stuff to in 2011 sent truckloads of stuff to Tuscaloosa in the tornado. And I think that, hey, turnabout's fair play. And honored to take it down there, and we've got at least one full U-Haul truck, and hope to have another one before we leave out on Wednesday morning. As was mentioned a while ago, yesterday we had a great tragedy in Northport. Right beside the airport, as everybody's read and seen the news, there were 6 people from Oxford, Mississippi that lost their lives. And I called the mayor of Oxford, Mayor Patterson, today at about 8:30. He was gracious enough to take my call, and needless to say, he was like I would be if something happened like that to somebody else. He was tore up. And he said these were all very prominent people in the city, that they left behind 11 children total. The high school there today was having a memorial service because some of the children were in high school. And I told him that I got to the crash site not too long after they put the flames out, and me along with some other ones had prayer there. He said he appreciated that. He was a strong believer in prayer. And then I told him the 25,000 citizens of Northport, the 100,000 citizens of Tuscaloosa was lifting him up, lifting their city up, anything that we could do that we wanted to. And anybody's going to pass that along to him. He said to tell the citizens of Northport, Alabama, thank you very much. Now, let's talk about some baseball. We're supposed to have some kind of national championship team here somewhere, but I don't know where they might be. They're outside or where. I see a hand there. Well, guys, why don't you come on up here? Come on up, coaches. come on, right around here. We're gonna make a presentation. We're gonna go out in the hallway and take some pictures. You take some pictures here, because it's polo sort of tall, and some of these baseball players aren't flat ass tall, so we're gonna go outside in the hallway. And, we got one more coach. Come on, coach. And this is a fine looking group. There you are. Yours, 16-year-old champions, is that what it is? Six-year-old champions. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to read something, and I've got one of these for every player and all the coaches. And this is on behalf of the city of Northport, with the appreciation of all these council people and all the 25,000 citizens inside the city limits of Northport. So I'm going to read this proclamation to you. I'm going to give every one of you one. You can take pictures as we do this, but then we'll go out in the hallway and take some pictures. And it says this. It says, whereas, and when I call your name, I want you to raise your hand, okay? And I hope I get all the names right, okay? Whereas Levi Fowler, Fisher Evans, Bryson Boynton, Jet Todd, Caleb McCausland, did I get that right? Carson Morgan, Davin Thornton, Henry Smith, Hunter Elmore, Sawyer Kendrick, okay, Reese Glasgow, outstanding, and Avery Mapp are players on the 2016 6-year-old Northport Nationals All-Star Baseball Team. And whereas Coach Lee Evans is the head coach of the Northport Nationals with Coach Brian Boynton, right there, Coach Dusty Fowler, and Coach Russell Morgan as assistant coaches. And whereas the 2016 6-year-old Northport Nationals won the District 9 championship in Oakland, Alabama, the area championship in Northport, Alabama, the Dizzy Dean State Championship in Madison, Alabama, and the Dizzy Dean World Series in South Haven, Mississippi. And whereas Caleb McCausland was selected as most valuable player for the state tournament, and Bryson Boynton, Fisher Evans, Levi Fowler, Carson Morgan, and Davin Thornton were selected for the World Series All-Tournament team. Now therefore, I, Bobby Herndon, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the great city of Northport, Alabama, do hereby proclaim Monday, which is today, August 15, 2016, to be 6-year-old Northport Nationals World Series Champions Day in the city of Northport, and express our congratulations to these young men, coaches, and families for all of their hard work and a job well done. Let's give them a hand, guys. Coaches and players, and we'll step outside and get some pictures. I know we got at least one TV crew here. Maybe we'll get them to go out there and see y'all can be on TV or not. Would you like that? Yeah. Hey, y'all can be movie stars. You can go to school tomorrow and sign autographs. Thank you so much. Y'all want people here right out here and get some pictures?
All right, folks, the next item on the agenda is 4B is our 2015 audit report, LaPro Hunter and Company. And on our pre-meeting, Richard and his staff gave us an overview, and I think we're going to let them kind of give us another report for the citizens out here. So, gentlemen.
Honorable Council, we appreciate the opportunity to work with the city of Northport. We did in our pre-meeting, went through the summary of the audit report for the year 2015. We also met with the Finance Committee last Thursday and went through the details of the audit report. Tonight in our presentation, we're going to present basically the same report that we gave to you in the pre-meeting and go through the details of that. I will wrap it up going through the management letter and the recommendations that we have for that. So with that, I'm going to let Courtney go ahead and present the information of the water and sewer department.
Thank you. I always like to point out, we present these separately. We present the governmental activities and the water and sewer fund and the business type activities separately because the governmental accounting standards require that. So, and the reason they require that is because the revenues are derived from different sources. Governmental funds, we don't attach a fee for police service or a fee for fire service, whereas water services we do. We attach a fee based on the service we provide with a markup there to service continued fixed asset purchases to provide that service. So with that, I'll discuss the highlights we discussed in the pre-meeting. Your statement of net position is just your balance sheet. The governmental accounting standards require it to be called the statement of net position. Your cash and cash equivalents at the end of 2015 for the water and sewer fund was $5,055,099. Of that, $3,531,000 represented restricted money. The remaining portion of $1,523,000 was unrestricted. This represents an increase of $620,000 over the prior year. I pointed out in the pre-meeting, I'll do so again now. The reason that's important to present the change in cash there, cash only changes for two reasons. You either borrowed it or you provided a service at a profit. You didn't borrow any new money in 2015. That represented cash generated from selling water and providing sewer service. Water and sewer fund contingency reserves are $1,253,467. That represents approximately 2.5 months worth of operating expenses. Again, we just recommend that be 3 months as a minimum. So we just recommend that be a little bit. Total debt to outside third parties. This is a question that comes up from time to time. It was presented to us by some council members. Your total debt in the water and sewer fund was $27,192,286. That represents a $1,650,000 decrease from the prior year. Where did the decrease come from? We paid down principal. That's what that represents. If the council members still have the sheet that we handed out in the pre-meeting, just briefly discuss the graph you've got in front of you. That graph depicts your debt service coverage ratio. Your debt service coverage ratio is something specified in the bond indenture. When you borrow money, Raymond James looks at our audit, they do their own analysis, and they come up with a percentage of operating income before depreciation. That operating income has to be as a multiple of your debt service. Currently, they require your debt service, your net operating income before depreciation to be 1.25 times your debt service in any 1 year. For 2015, that multiple was 1.49. What I mean by that, your operating income was 1.49 times what you had to pay out in interest and principal. The following page, again, if you still have this just depicts your cash balances as well as your debt. We went back all the way to 2007, which was the farthest audit report we had. In 2007, the debt for water and sewer fund was $30,485,661. Today that number is, or at the end of 2015, that number was $27,192,286. Your unrestricted cash, that is cash that is not legally restricted for any reason. In 2007 it was $1.6 million. Today that stands at $1.5 million. And the only reason we present that, again, the question comes up from time to time, how do we stack up? What's our debt doing? What's our cash flow? The importance of this is showing that your debt declined somewhat, but we didn't burn through our cash to do so. And that's why we present that here. A couple of things on your income statement. The net change of the year, or your net income for the water and sewer fund, was $882,377 compared to $754,231 last year. So a little bit higher net income. Operating revenues were up by 4%. Operating expenses increased by 5%. Any questions from the council on those figures?
Well, I guess just a comment, and just to hit it again, Courtney, the contingency reserve funds are at 1.2, and that's right at 2.5 months, so we're kind of on track to hit our 3-month mark, which is kind of the sweet spot, I guess.
Right.
And this is before depreciation, so before you factor into that depreciation rate, I guess it would drop it somewhat, but to get to that point on the uptick to 3 months is pretty good.
Right. Your cash balances in that reserve fund are $1.2 million. And if you were to take your expenses on your operating, your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, which is your income statement, you were to back out depreciation and divide that by 12, that 1.2 would cover 2.5 months worth of expenses. And again, that's just what you have in reserve. The unrestricted cash balance in operation is 1.5. So no problem there. We just recommend that reserve be at three months rather than 2.5. But that's
And
not.
Courtney, as that debt's paid down, I think that number was what, down 1.6 this year. If that trend continues, that'll only help us
That's right.
pop that reserve back into
That's right.
where the range, as Jay said, we prefer it.
That's right.
And that only makes sense. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Courtney.
Good evening. My name is Matt Richardson. I work on the governmental activities, which includes the general fund, the debt service, capital improvement, and the gasoline tax funds. The sheet that we handed out earlier, I'm going to go through that briefly. Starting off with the statement of financial debt position. The total unrestricted and restricted cash at the end of the year was a little over $8,928,839. It was a decrease of $5.4 million from the prior year. The majority of the decrease in restricted cash was a result of bond capital acquisitions, $4.6 million during the year. In addition to the decrease in cash, the general fund capital acquisitions were $259,000, and additional health insurance claims of $324,000 contributed to the decrease, the overall decrease in cash for the year. Capital assets before accumulated depreciation, which are your capital assets at cost, at the end of the year were $106,671,000. That represented an increase of $4.9 million from the prior year. Governmental bonds and notes payable at the end of the year were $25,337,000. That represents a $802,000 decrease from the prior year. The legal debt margin, which basically represents any additional future indebtedness that the city can legally take on, right now would be $25.8 million. Okay, and what that number is a figure that's calculated based on Section 225 of the Constitution of the State of Alabama. It limits the city of Northport to 20% of the assessed value of taxable property. So basically, we're at 10% of that figure. 20% is allowed. Okay. Net pension liability. This is a new figure. It's required to be stated on your statement of net position at the end of the year. It was $14.6 million. It represents the unfunded pension obligation the city has to the retirement systems of Alabama. Every municipality in the state is going to be required to present and report this figure. It varies from municipality to municipality. It may not be $15 million at another one, but it is for you. That's calculated based on actuarial analysis that's done by the state retirement systems, and that number and that figure is given to us to record as a liability. But it's a projection over the life of the employees. If they, and that number can change from year to year, but it's basically a payment over of the life of the existing employees. The net position at year end, which is like your equity in the city for the governmental activities, was $23,978,000. That was a decrease from last year, a little over $2.3 million. Now, that $2.3 million, sliding over to the statement of activities, which is your shows your revenues and your expenditures for the year, was a loss of $2.3 million. All right, that figure is a accrual figure, includes non-cash items that are accounting related. For example, depreciation expense is probably the biggest on your books. It's about $3.1 million, and that's not a cash figure, but it is a number that if you exclude it from your $2.3 million loss, basically results in a unrestricted cash loss of that intangible, some other items of $387,000. So basically, your unrestricted cash for the year went down $387,000 from last year. Okay. The total governmental revenues for the year was $25,882,000. That was an increase of a little over $1.9 million from last year. The majority of that increase is due to an increase in grant revenue of $1.4 million. Sales tax revenue from last year, it's increased $290,000. And business licenses increased $145,000. City sales tax was $8,961,000. And again, that was an increase of $290,000 from last year. Business license was $4,862,000, and that was an increase of $145,000 from last year. The total governmental activity expenses for the year were $28,196,000. That was an increase of $1.7 million from last year. The majority of the increase is due to our increased interest costs related to the 2014 bond issue. That increase in interest of $533,000. Along with the increase in depreciation for the year of $332,000, and our net pension expense adjustment that I discussed earlier, the current year portion of that was $328,000, and as well as our health insurance increase of $324,000 contributed to those increases in expenses compared to last year. If you flip over to your next page, we've got a chart that shows your sales tax, your total revenues, governmental revenues, and total governmental expenses for the year. Total revenues, again, were $25,882,000. Total expenditures were $28,196,000. This chart that you've got in front of you shows a breakdown between sales tax, business license, and intergovernmental revenues based on the percentages. And just to give you an example, sales tax and use taxes make up 35% of our revenues. Business license and permits make up 19% of our revenues. Intergovernmental revenues are 17%. That includes our county sales tax. And property tax makes up 12% of our total revenues. On our expenditures, public safety make up 49% of our expenditures. Public works makes up 26%, and general government makes up 11%, finance and administration is 9%, and interest expense is 2% for the year. So, anybody have any?
Hey, man, I appreciate that. I hate to put you on the spot, but, and Donna Aaron is here, and she was fortunate enough to not have me for algebra accounting, so she cannot challenge my math here tonight. But when I look at your report, Matt, I guess your third bullet there, we talk about that we paid the debt down $1.6 million. And then if I flip over to where Courtney was, we paid, in the general fund, we paid it down by about $800,000.
That's correct.
So am I getting the overall citywide water and sewer within the city, we reduced our debt by about $2.4 million.
That's
as we
correct.
left 2015 from when we started.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
thank
correct.
you.
That's correct. Okay. Thank you.
I will briefly address with you the management letters. I stated to you in the work session, there are 3 letters that we're required to give to you. One being a letter addressed to the governing body, which is the city council. The second one deals with internal control items. And the third letter is the management letter, which I will briefly go over with you, and then have some other information that we'll briefly go over as well. In the management letter, we discuss in there kind of highlights of the audit, as well as any recommendations or items that we feel like are concerned that need to be addressed. In our internal control letter, there were 9 items that we noted as weaknesses in the internal control, 7 of those being material, 2 being significant deficiencies. We discussed that in detail with the Finance Committee as well as the other councilmen, and going through the details of those and the things that need to be done to correct those items. Also, we discussed in our meeting the reserve fund, which Courtney and Matt have addressed with you. Those reserve funds were established by city ordinance number 1764, which required that we maintain a reserve account of 10% of the operating revenues of the general fund, as well as operating revenues of the water and sewer. At the end of December 31st, 2015, the water and sewer had maintained their balance. The general fund had not. There were transfers in and out of that account. There were transfers to the operating account for payroll and for health insurance payments. There were no non-budgeted expenditures or capital expenditures or anything with that money, and the monies were restored back as cash flow so permitted. At the end of the year, there was a shortfall in that account, and it was restored on February the 1st of 2016. Our recommendation to be in compliance with the ordinance is that we have proper written documentation for the funds that are transferred out of that account, how it's going to be paid back, and the approximate date that it will be paid back. That recommendation applies to any intercompany or any fund transfers that we have between the general fund as well as gasoline excise tax or water and sewer. Needs to be in writing. The second item that we brought out to you was on health insurance coverage. As you know, health insurance costs continue to go up. In comparing the 2014 year to the 2015 year, health insurance increased. However, our withholding from employees did not, which cost the city an additional $434,000, which Matt brought out to you as he discussed the governmental operations of the city. Our recommendation there was that we take a look at the recommendations from Blue Cross Blue Shield, which administers the self-insured program, and that they made recommendations on what percentage that we should have, and we recommend the city council review that in light of the cash shortfall. According to Matt, I mentioned to you also the debt service requirements, which we did meet for the year 2015. In the water and sewer department, which has been met for the last 6 years. Courtney indicated to you that comparing our required operating revenues to that debt service number, that is a must that we meet. That's not an option because the bondholders have the right, if we do not correct that, to call the bonds. Under subsequent events, there were I think 5 items there that we noted. One was the resignation of the city administrator in April, the termination of the finance director in May. Effective June 1st of this year, the Tuscaloosa County-wide sales tax, that before was a 2% permanent tax and a 1% temporary, was changed to a 3% permanent tax. The city of Northport will be receiving a 5% allocation of 3%, and then 10% of the 3% will be going to an entity called the Tuscaloosa County Road Improvement Authority. That authority is obligated to reimburse the city of Northport for our cost of the Mid-Larry project. That money will be coming back to us and will be used to retire the 2014 bond issue that was done in the prior year. In addition, the city will be receiving $1.4 million on an annual basis. It is projected at this point that that money will be coming to the city of Northport beginning January 1st of 2017 at $200,000 a month, and will continue until it's fully paid. The city, in July of this year, we issued $8.5 million in debt, the Series 2016 general obligation warrants. That money is to be used to refund a older issue that we had at a savings to the city of approximately $600,000 in interest. There was no new money generated from that. And then in July of 2016, the city entered into a $5 million line of credit that's to be used for 2 ongoing projects and also payment of some of the debt on our bond issues. We have 2 related party transactions that are recorded. The city has 1 city council person who is an employee of the Tuscaloosa County Park and Recreation Authority, and the city of Northport funds a portion of their budget on an annual basis. We also have related parties in the administrative office, however, they do not work in the same departments. Any questions or comments on the management letter?
Thank you, Richard. I just want to make sure everybody understands that what I call a net pension liability, like
Right.
Matt was saying, does that affect our bond issue or rating in any way?
No, it does not.
All right, even though you'll see it as a liability on our sheet, it does not affect our bond rating.
And in the bond issue that we just did in July, we still received the same bond rating that we had prior to that.
Okay, very good.
Okay, the other handout that I gave to you in the work session, I want to briefly go over that if you still have the handout, 2-page handout, kind of giving you a barometer of where the city is compared to 4 years ago. Our unrestricted cash at the end of 2015 was $3,351,000, or an increase of $706,000 from 2011. Restricted cash was increased by $1,679,000, or a 20% increase in the 4-year period. The reserve fund that we mentioned earlier had a balance at 12/31/15, and this includes water and sewer as well as the city. It was $2,106,000, or a 15% increase from 12/31/11. Also on that, we indicated, if you remember, to the council people who were here earlier, we had a debt. The water and sewer department owed the general fund approximately $2.9 million, where the general fund had paid expenses for the water and sewer department. That money has all been paid back, so there's no due to from those 2 funds. So those $2.9 million have been retired over an 8-year period, and $2.1 million of that was retired in the last 4-year period. Outstanding debt, I won't go back through that. Courtney and Matt have addressed that with you. Matt also indicated on sales tax revenues. Sales tax revenues are up 15% from 2011. Business licenses have increased 11%. Gross revenues of the governmental fund have increased 11%. Gross revenues of the water and sewer department are up 3%. The net operating income required for debt service is up 279% from 2011. And property, plant, and equipment has increased $15 million in that time period, or an increase of 9%. The net position of the city has decreased because of what President Logan asked about on the GASB 68 recording of the net pension liability, which is required about approximately $15 million decrease in the net position of the city. Any questions or comments?
Jay, is this, these recommendations and suggestions, are we going to address that in the financial committee?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, if it pleases me, yeah, that's a great idea. You and Councilman Sims will just work together, address it, and get it to the full body. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
President Logan, at the council's pleasure, you need to approve the audit report, and so note that in your minutes. And once that's done, then we will release the report to you to be put on your website.
Thank you. Again, once we approve it, it'll be on the website.
That's correct.
All right.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Richard. All right, folks, item 5, approval of the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Sims.
Yes.
Councilman Harper.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you. Item 7A1 is a second reading of an ordinance rezoning 0.38 acres located at 420 Hunter Creek Lane from AG to RS12. Mr. Stevens, again, this is just a second reading, no issues, it's a rezoning, received favorable recommendation, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
Move to approve.
Thank you, that's a motion by Councilman Sullivan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sims. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Sims,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Harper.
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
motion carries, Mr. President.
New business, item 8A1 is a first reading of an ordinance authorizing the conditional use for filling in the floodway fringe located at 4008 Highway 69 North. Mr. Stevens, again, the petitioner has asked that the council consider suspension of rules just for time constraints. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right, Ron, if it pleases council, I'll make a motion if it's proper to ask for suspension of the rules to address the petitioner's request. So I'll make a motion to suspend the rules at this time. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sims. Any questions or comments?
Mr. President, I would remind the council that it takes unanimous consent to suspend the rules.
Thank you. Unanimous consent is required, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a motion by President Logan, second by Councilmember Sims. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Sims.
Yes.
Councilman Harper,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President, rules are suspended.
Thank you. Again, is there a motion to approve that ordinance authorizing the conditional use approval for filling in the floodway fringe located at 4008 Highway 69 North?
Move to approve.
Thank you. That's a motion by Councilman Sullivan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Harper. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Harper,
Yes.
Councilman Sims,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item 2 is a first reading of an ordinance authorizing the conditional use approval for additional mini storage units. That's adequate mini storage located at 4008-69 North. Again, Mr. Stevens has just added 3 new buildings, and it's already received a favorable recommendation, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, do I have anybody to offer that for a first reading?
Oh, that's the first reading.
Councilman Sullivan. Item 3 is a first reading of an ordinance amending section 58-35 of the municipal code.
Excuse me, Mr. President. Mr. President, I think they requested that to be suspended.
Suspensions as well, okay. All right, item 1 and 2. All right, well, we'll back up a little bit. I'll make a motion to suspend the rules on item 2. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Harper. Any questions or comments in suspension of rules? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Harper,
Yes.
Councilman Sims,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President, rules are suspended.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve that ordinance authorizing the conditional use for additional mini storage units at 4008 Highway 69 North?
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Thank you. That's a motion by Councilman Sullivan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sims. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Sims,
Yes.
Councilman Harper,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes, President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you. Item 3 is a first reading of an ordinance amending section 58-35 of the municipal code pertaining to parks and recreation. Mr. Davis.
Yes, Mr. President, this item and the next item are related. The board of directors of Kid-Duck has asked them, the city to consider allowing a vendor to sell craft beer on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. What this does is change the city code to allow this, and what would happen is the Kid-Duck would have to come to this council and seek a permission as with anyone else to be able to do this and be given on a one-time basis. And any additional parties or any additional years of Kid-Duck would have to come back and seek approval of the council. Give this first reading only.
Thank you. Everyone ready to offer that for a first reading?
I'll offer that, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Harper for a first reading on item 3. Item 4, first reading, of course, is an ordinance amending section 66-292 of the municipal code. Mr. Davis?
Yes, so this is the same thing. This simply sets up a business license category if the code is amended.
Thank you. Members of council want to offer that for a first reading?
I'll offer that first reading.
Thank you. That's Councilman Sullivan, first reading. Item 1 is a resolution authorizing our mayor to execute an agreement for stop-loss insurance. Again, this is out of Mr. Rose's office. This is basically the HCC Insurance Company and Cobbs Allen Company for stop-loss insurance. Mr. Rose, again, this gives us a $75,000 threshold. After that, anything above that, the city will be reimbursed 100%. Is that right? Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve that resolution authorizing our mayor's office to enter into an agreement with HCC Insurance Company and Cobbs Allen for stop-loss insurance for the city. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sims. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Sims.
Yes.
Councilman Harper.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 2 is a resolution rejecting bids for the wastewater treatment plant building improvements project. Mr. Ingram, give us a brief synopsis on where we are with that and the requirements for the rejecting of the bid.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of council. On June 20th of this year, the council approved the bid on the water treatment plant building improvement project of Bill Lunsford construction for $227,800. Prior to the execution of those contracts, Lunsford Construction came back and realized that they had made an error in their bid. The electrical portion of their bid, I believe they had put in $5,000. They went back, recalculated. The price they came back with was an additional $54,575 to the price of the project prior to the execution of the contracts. With only one bidder, complicates it a little bit for us. So at this time, we are asking that the council reject the award of the previously awarded bid amount and allow us to rebid the project. Additionally, we're also asking that in this upcoming bid that Bill Lunsford Construction forfeit their right to bid on the project, and unless they were to surrender their bid bond for the existing bid.
Thank you. If we don't, Larry, that actually would create a $49,000, we get the $575 change order.
Yes, sir, that's correct, $49,575.
Have we ever done that?
Not prior to executing the contract, no, sir.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution rejecting the awarded bid for the water treatment plant building improvements project to Bill Lunsford in the amount of $227,800? That's $227,800, and authorize the city administrator's office to execute the necessary documents to rebid the project. I'll make that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Harper. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Harper,
Yes.
Councilman Sims,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the Northport Police Department to view available surplus equipment. Again, this is out of Chief Burton's office. This is simply giving the Chief's office access to our governmental website. No purchases will be made, of course, but it does give them the ability to look at certain items that they can purchase at a very reasonable rate on behalf of the citizens. I think that sums it up. I know Chief. It probably had to respond to something, but again, this is a governmental website where it allows our police department access to view pieces of equipment and things of that nature for use in the police department. Again, any purchases will have to go back to council as they normally would through a PO requisition process. So again, I'll make a motion to approve that resolution authorizing our Northport Police Department to appropriate surplus equipment via this governmental website. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Sims,
Yes.
Councilman Harper.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you. Item 4 is a resolution accepting the 2015 municipal audit. We had LaCroix and his staff present a great synopsis of our audit in our pre-meeting, again here in our larger meeting with the citizens. And again, we have to do this to make sure that we can get this on website 1 and make it in certified 2. So again, is there a motion to approve the resolution accepting the 2015 audit report?
Move to approve, Mr. President.
All right, let me see. We'll flip a coin. Finance Chairman got you. I think I heard it. Councilman Sims makes the motion. Councilman Harper makes the second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
Councilman Sims,
Yes.
Councilman Harper,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item C is our consent agenda. We have 7 items. They range from minutes of the previous meeting, bill listings, PO requisitions. Of course, if you're a citizen of Northport, if you hadn't got your bright yellow voter card, I'm sure, keep looking in your mail, you should get it. Shows you where to vote. Should be no excuses, I guess. And with that, that's on our PO requisition. We have a wastewater pump repair request and a request for engineering services for an ALDOT permit, travel and training for a couple of employees out of 2 departments. Again, I'll make that motion to approve our consent agenda as printed. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Harper. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Harper,
Yes.
Councilman Sims.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you. Item 9 is reports of special committees to council. If you remember, ladies and gentlemen, we did reactivate our committees. You know, Councilwoman Hayes is vice chair of our finance and along with Councilman Sims. So they were the first to kind of come out of the gate with our audit team. So they had a meeting last week. It went very well, very productive. So you'll see in the next coming weeks that we'll have other council members engage with city staff in terms of public safety, public works or public projects, and personnel, and also a business retail development committee that we're going to start. So you'll see that in the coming weeks. Again, Councilman Sims, do you have anything just to report, or Councilwoman Hayes as far as your committee?
I was just gonna say, we appreciate very much, of course, the auditors that came, but I also appreciate April and her staff. And it's obvious they're extremely diligent people and put a lot of work into it, and that means a lot to me. Thank you.
Councilwoman, anything?
That's what I would say.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Item 10 is public hearings. We have none on the agenda. Item 11, city administrator's business. Mr. Swan.
Yes, sir, just 2 items. Want to make an announcement that we will have to have a special council meeting on August 30th at noon to canvass the election results. I know that's important to everyone. And we have our first meeting in September will fall on Labor Day, September the 5th. We would ask that the council consider changing that date to possibly the following week, Monday, September the 12th.
All right, Charles, you're asking for August 30th to be put on the docket for our special meeting to canvass results and the September.
Yes, we would just,
Okay.
we would simply like to have a motion to change your September 5th meeting to September the 12th. And the August 30th meeting is set by state code, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that right, Ms. Brown?
It is.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve rescheduling the September 5th, 2016 council meeting to September 12th. All times are still the same, 5 p.m. pre-meeting, 6 p.m. general meeting with the public. Again, that's in a motion by Council President Logan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Harper. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Harper,
Yes.
Councilman Sims.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Item 12, departmental business. We have an executive session, but what I'll do, if it pleases members of council and staff, I like to jump to public comment and give our citizens time to speak. That way you're not waiting around waiting on the process in the back. But if it pleases council, I like to go from item 12 to item 13, public comment. We have a few citizens signed up to speak. First one is Jody Jobson. Good evening, Mr. Jobson.
How are you?
Please state your name and address for the record.
Just with me.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jody Jobson. I live at 1534 Bellwood Lane, Northport, Alabama. Mayor, members of the Northport Council, I'd like to thank you for hearing me this evening. Our mayor is not here, so a lot of this is not the way I would handle it, but it's got to be done. Over the last 6 years, you or your associate from your company have appeared several times before the Planning and Zoning Board, a board that you appoint 7 of the 9 members. You nor your firm should be representing anyone in front of this Planning and Zoning Board. You said at a recent forum that you were surveying work in 7 states. Isn't that enough work? Why are you here? Did your firm prepare the survey of Glencrest subdivision in 2015? Northport Corners #1, the new Walmart neighborhood market 2015, and represent the Northport Winn-Dixie lot in front of the Planning and Zoning Board. For more details, you can read your own book if you want to. According to section 114384 of the Alabama State Code, the mayor shall at least once in every 6 months make a statement to the council in writing of the financial condition of the city, showing particularly all temporary floating indebtedness and the steps he proposes to take for the protection of that credit of the town. I was going to ask him if he's done it. Last time he said he was guilty. According to section 1143C37, subparagraph 5 of the Alabama State Code, the mayor shall keep the council fully advised as to the financial conditions and needs of the city, prepare and submit the budget annually to the council, and be responsible for its administration after its adoption. Prepare and submit as the end of the fiscal year a complete report on the financial and administrative activities of the city. Nowhere in the Alabama State Code could I find where anyone but the city council has the authority to transfer funds from the reserve fund to another fund in the city without prior approval of the city council. The last time this matter was brought up at a council meeting, the mayor said he supposed the city administrator transferred money from the reserve fund to the insurance fund, and his quote was, he moved it from the city to the city insurance fund, but he paid it back. So you and the supposed city administrator were the only 2 people that knew about the money transferred between accounts. But you told the Alabama Political Reporter that you knew nothing about it. Which one is it? Did you or didn't you know? Our elected officials can only run the city of Northport effectively if you, mayor, report the truth and what you are required to do by law. We as concerned citizens are not going to tolerate the moving of funds, overstepping of duties as prescribed by law. We need better cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce in developing retail growth for Northport rather than you going to retail convention in Las Vegas every year. We don't need a new school system in Northport. The present one is serving our children fine. Why don't you focus on the recreational needs and parks for children instead? Northport Community Center and Park was built for the kids. We can create new and better parks in each district with the sin tax money that was the supposed city administrator dumped into the general fund rather than building pocket parks with the money that was intended for. So Mayor Herndon or anybody else, if you don't want to join this movement to make Northport all for one and one for all, please leave. I'm asking our entire community, our citizens, our elected officials to join together in creating a better Northport for the future, where we all work together and can move Northport forward into the town we really want it to be. And we are going to strive to make this happen. Mayor and council, I request this speech in this binder I have supplied you enter into the minutes permanent records tonight. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Jody. You did it in 3 minutes. I got you at 6:58.
I've had experience.
Sir?
I've had experience.
Yes, ma'am.
I kind of put him on the spot, but I'd like Gary Bonner to get up and talk about the status of the Vandegraff Park for a minute.
May I do this, Councilwoman? Let me get through these citizens that signed up, and then if it, we'll get Mr. Minor up as soon as we've got 3 more. Second citizen, Mr. Stephen Schwab.
Thank you. On August 23rd, the voters of Northport will elect a new city council. I sincerely hope that the voters will choose wisely, for the future economic well-being of Northport may depend on the outcome. Tonight, I would like to address 2 concerns. First, the traffic situation in old downtown Northport continues to be atrocious. Within the past 6 months, there have been 2 serious accidents involving significant property damage caused by vehicles crashing into the sidewalks of businesses located at the intersection of 5th and Main Street. The most recent accident 1 week ago involved an 18-wheeler which had no legal right to be there. Second, there should be real incentives to bring new businesses to downtown Northport and to provide for the expansion of existing businesses. I'm not talking about franchises, but about privately owned businesses. I agree with a point made recently by one of the current candidates running for mayor that we should have a coffee house, and it would also be wonderful if we have a local library. This is not an endorsement of the candidate who made these recommendations, but I would ask, if a new digital library known as the Gateway can be established in Alberta City, why can't Northport be equally creative? On an entirely separate subject, I would like to see the Northport City Council honor all of the people who really make our lives work. Who am I referring to? Well, of course, I mean the police and fire departments. But I would also identify the sewer maintenance workers, the electric power linemen, who often restore our electricity in inclement weather, and the trash and garbage collectors. It doesn't matter whether they are public or private employees. We depend on them every day of our lives. Is there anyone whom I have overlooked whose work is essential to our well-being? I propose that the Northport City Council honor all of these workers once a year, every year, in a public ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwab. Third citizen, David Allgood.
Hello, David Allgood. I live at 615 26th Avenue, Northport. I'd like to address again the issue of the resignation of Scott Collins as city administrator. And I assure Mr. Davis that I understand what a deposition is. I was a court reporter in Atlanta and Fulton County, Georgia after college. And I understand that none of the council has been sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But my question is, if Mr. and the auditors at the pre-meeting that Mr. Collins is not resigning until April 2017, then it appears we have a redundancy in that we have two people performing the same job. Is that correct?
Thanks, David. I'll defer to Mr. Davis's office on that clarification.
You don't have redundancy. The council voted to pay when there's in effect a severance package and keep the insurance in effect for a year.
Yeah, I understood that, and I still don't understand why we're paying someone an annual salary for no reason at all.
Mr. Collins' resignation was effective, and I believe it was April 15th this year.
But the auditor said it was April of next year.
He's being paid at year severance. The auditor's correct. He's being paid 1 year severance.
And I don't understand why an employee who's not performing a job is being paid an annual salary.
A decision of the council.
Okay, then I ask the council why that.
Well, David, and this is just my opinion, if you remember, Mr. Collins was the only employee who knew a lot of these retail dealings with the city. So he will, in effect, still be interfacing with Mr. Swan's office on some retail deals that he alone knew what went on, so.
So he's still performing a function then?
Correct.
Okay, well, that's all I wanted to know, is that it seemed to me that he was given a package and that there was enough for no reason. But so he's still performing duties?
On behalf of the city, in terms of these retail projects that he has to get over the goal line, if I'm saying that correctly.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
Councilman Logan?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
believe he's moved out of state, hasn't he? Taken a job in somewhere in Tennessee. So how is he working for the city if he's living in another state? I'm just curious.
Well, I guess via email, phone calls, and interfacing, he still has to interface with Mr. Swan's office and, of course, and other city employees that actually are vetting a lot of these retail opportunities that Northport has. So, not physically in the building. Thank you, David. Last citizen, Ms. Danielle.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Paulos. I live at 5137 North Cliff Drive in Northport, Alabama. I just want to say good evening and thank you for letting me speak to you and all of you as well. I'm just here on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association. I'm a volunteer here in town. I'm working on the committee to get the walk together, and it's on October 15th, which is in 2 months. I just wanted to invite everybody to attend. It's a cause that's dear to my heart. I'm a pharmacist here in town, so I see a lot of patients that have Alzheimer's. Also, my family suffers from Alzheimer's disease. So I just wanted to invite everybody to be a part of that if they'd like. We're trying to raise money for a cure. It's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. And we really don't have a cure for it at all. There's hardly any treatment. Nothing's been on the market for years. So if anybody would like some more information about it, please go online to the Alzheimer's Association. You can click the link for the Tuscaloosa Walk. It'll be at Madeiras Park in Tuscaloosa, right on the river. So that's all I had to say. I just appreciate y'all's time, and I hope to see anybody that would like to attend there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hayes had a request. I think, Mr. Minor, if you don't mind, you want to come up at the request of Councilwoman.
Sure. Thank you. As everyone knows, we had a tragic accident in Vandergraaf Park yesterday. The park, we were softly opening the park. In other words, we're still working in the park. We were going to open it fully on September 1st, and probably we still will open the park on September 1st. It will be closed for the remainder of this week, certainly while the investigators are doing their work there, and it will open. We'll open the gates and have a grand opening sometimes in September. But we think that that park will serve a great need for the people of the county, and specifically Northport. We're developing campsites. There's fishing lakes. There's hiking trails. It's a work in progress. It's a little bit raw at this point in time. It's a nature park in the middle of the city. And we've got to connect some pieces of land through some type of bridging. It's about 150 acres. We'll open it a piece at a time as we are able to develop access into the park, the interior of the park. Are there any questions or anything about the park?
I just encourage everybody to go back and see it.
Yeah.
I mean, not now, but obviously it's a nice piece of property and you've done a great job.
Thank you. And it does have the oldest iron bridge in the state of Alabama. That used to go over the Warrior River that connected Tuscaloosa and Northport. And that's something to see, a piece of history. And we hope potentially to be placing more bridges in the park to connect the pieces of land.
I know a lot of people are interested in the dog park. So
Yes, there's one portion of the park will be, of course you can take your dog on a leash in all of the park, but there will be a significant portion of the park that will be a dog-friendly area where you'll be able to let your dog off leash and the dogs can run, jump, and swim. And we'll have some unique campsites that will be, as far as I know, unique across the country where we'll develop campsites that will be fenced in with a dog house, and you'll be able to come and leave your dog in the dog house if you want to go and bike or hike in the park. Your dog will stay there with you, or you can take your dog with you and go and play in the dog-friendly area. And people love their dogs. If you don't believe it, just wait till this dog park opens.
Will there be any change in signage for speed on Airport Road in the park so that those entrances are, don't face traffic coming along 50 miles an hour?
That's a good question, and that's a governmental agency outside of us that is responsible for it. I would hope to see some signage improvements there, and I guess is that who's responsible for that road there?
Tuscaloosa.
Tuscaloosa. Okay, that's something I may need to ask the city of Tuscaloosa to do, because you're right. It's a big thoroughfare for people who are cutting from 82 back into 69 close to our downtown Northport. So we do think that this park will have an economic impact on Northport, and we'll have people coming and staying in the park for different events, and they'll shop in Northport, they'll eat in Northport, gas up in Northport. So we think it'll be a big benefit to Northport. Yeah, we have an unusual feature in the park, and so we bought this and installed this giant bat house, which will hold up to 400,000 bats. So, I kind of want to wait and see before, I don't know how successful that will be. They said it takes 6 to 9 months. And yes, it's natural mosquito control. We're going to attempt to lure the bats from Kentucky over to
you're gonna have that fenced in, right? That house fenced in.
Yeah, well, the bottom of it. It's up in the air about 15 feet, so.
And that's September 1st?
Yes, it will be open after this investigation. We'll open the gates, but we're not renting campsites or doing anything like that. We're continuing to work, and we'll continue to work because it's, in its current form, it's a little bit primitive. We don't even have electricity in the park at this point. We have water in Northport, but we need some other things, but it will be great to use during the day, and we will eventually develop it to where we have electricity or full RV hookups. And right now we do have 10 RV sites, and they're water only. We'll work over the years and make it a great park.
Council, got any further questions? Or?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. These are all the public comments or citizens signed up to speak. I'll jump again. Item 14, mayor and council members' business. That way, again, trying to keep everybody as close to time as we can. I'll start with District 1, the Honorable Councilwoman Judy Hayes, under your business.
Well, I had wanted to talk about the Vandergraaf Park. Mr. Minor has done that for me. And traffic, and Mr. Schwab has mentioned that. And we had another incident with an 18-wheeler plowing into the corner of 5th and Main, across the street from Billy's. Luckily, nobody was standing there. Yeah. That's the second one we've had that's turned that corner and actually ran through corners. And and while I was standing there talking to the driver of the truck, 3 more my trucks passed, one coming down south from Maine, one from the east, and one from the west. So I don't know whether it's exactly why they're taking this as a shortcut, but it's very dangerous, very destructive to our area to not limit those or avoid having any of those 2 millers on Main Avenue, North Fifth Street even. I just want to make that comment.
Thank you. Is that all, Councilwoman? All right. Under my district, ladies and gentlemen, got some guests. I got my wife and my son out there. I got my aunt straight from Nashville. She would come and see how Northport runs. We appreciate you. Come back and go tell the good folks that we are not Metro form of government, so I won't go there. I do want to add a little bit to Mr. Schwab. I think you had a concern about traffic on 5th. If you remember, a few months back, we had Gresham Smith give us a presentation on the proposed projects, a $5 million investment with ALDOT regarding traffic circles. But on the short term, ALDOT is going to fund this 100%. So in my opinion, that's good for Northport. It's at, wait a minute, it's at the corner of Bridge Avenue and Rice Mile. So proposing to maybe add a traffic circle there and then one due west as you come off the bridge coming into downtown. Now, that's what ALDOT is proposing. What this may give us the ability to do is long-term to maybe partner with ALDOT and a traffic firm to look at downtown Northport. But now keep in mind, again, you're talking about an intersection that's been there since the 1800s, so you're kind of limited in what you can do in terms of traffic calming. But nonetheless, if you start with ALDOT with their investment, that's no city fund being earmarked, they're going to make that investment surge twofold. It'll work on that traffic flow, and that they've looked at these models out to about 2030, the year 2030. So if you ever notice at 5 o'clock, you're pretty much still in Tuscaloosa trying to get to Northport. So it's just a way for them to keep the traffic moving, but then we still have to address on our end going west. So it may be some partnerships with some dollars that we may have to push towards. So again, maybe long term.
One thing that really has to be changed is the signage. You don't see the sign restricting trucks until you get
Maine.
well, you're past Maine. You're already at the railway overpass, which means you've already violated the ordinance.
Well, what we'll do.
So you have to do something with the signage because it makes no sense.
What we'll do is we'll do a 3-pronged approach: education, engineering, and enforcement. But now that's a step process, so you gotta bear with us a little bit. We can sit out there with them all day writing tickets and we'll hit everybody in the pocketbook, but at some point we'll have to start educating the public and then doing some engineering work. So we're doing the engineering work with ALDOT. That'll start next year. We'll continue with going west and then we'll enforce it and educate. So again, want to add a little value to what you came up and spoke about. Thank you. District 3, Councilman Sullivan.
Just quickly, I want to say thank you to the auditors. I appreciate all the work that went into this and all the time you spent. And to April as well and your staff. Appreciate that. I know it's been a lot to overtake here lately, but I certainly appreciate all the work that's been done, and I'm looking forward to continuing to move forward with this. Thank you.
District 4, Councilman Sims.
Well, thank you, Jay. I was also going to add to what Rodney did that thanks to Richard and their group, Courtney and Matt, I was thinking just recently how fortunate the city of Northport is to have somebody with their expertise that actually, I guess most of them, I guess they all live in our city, and so to have them here, I was in a meeting recently with all of them in a statewide meeting dealing with these issues, and they certainly stood out in terms of being knowledgeable about these things, and so to have them here and to be able to work with our staff, April and those, that means a great deal to me personally. I hope none of us take that for granted. But just on the whole concept of the financials and looking at those, Jay, you know you get tired of me saying this, but I always want people to keep the proper perspective on things and understand that your perspective might not be everybody else's perspective, and to respect that. And certainly, as we look at these numbers, that's a big thing to me. And also context, you know, keeping these things. I was, again, I'm not running down what was said. I won't even mention what it was, but I saw something in the paper this weekend referencing some statistic and versus where we are today. And I couldn't help but think about the University of Alabama and their athletic department. And their budget, pre-Nick Saban, was in the $37, $38 million range. That was our budget. And of course now it's over $100 million. And so when I'm trying to compare where we are today with where we were 10 years ago, that's not very fair. And so anyway, appreciate you guys, and I hope that we all, as this political campaigns wind down, that we keep those things in mind. Perspective, context, and then of course the last one I won't go on about because we're running late, but it's tone. You know, you can change the complete definition of anything by the tone you use. So I hope we all will respect that from others.
Thank you. District 5, Councilman Harper.
After that, I have none, Mr. President. Just want to thank the accounting firm and thank our staff.
All right, thank you. Mayor Herndon, of course, he had some business to take care of. I know that's why he gave his presentation after he did his proclamation with our 6-year-old champions. So he actually leaving to go out of town to do some business work. So again, he respectively had to leave early. So we're to item 12, departmental business, executive session. Mr. Davis, again, how long do you foresee we're being in this executive session?
My other department heads don't have much faith in my estimates, so I'm going to guess at 30 minutes. I missed it before, maybe it'll be quicker, but we may come out and take a vote, so there's possibility of a vote after this executive session. It deals with land acquisition for the project with the Levy Corps of Engineers.
All right, thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you're more than welcome to stay. We'll be in there no more than 30 minutes. We're going to time it. So when we get out, we'll basically adjourn the meeting. You'll be through for the night. But again, if you need to leave, we understand. But if you want to stick around and see the rest of the meeting, you're more than welcome. Again, I'll make a motion to go in executive session. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Harper. Any questions or comments? Before we vote, we just want to make sure that in the minutes, we're going into executive session to discuss property acquisition, no more than 30 minutes. It will be timed. All right, so that's my motion. Second by Councilman Harper. Any questions or comments further? Hearing none, Mr. Swan.
President Logan?
Yes.
Councilman Harper?
Yes.
Councilman Sims?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, we're in executive session, folks. We're going to come back out.
Joe.
You got an extra one of those?
I did. I got a box full of
Could I have one?
Make me a copy. I know you got some to give out, but.
Yeah.